I don't know where I'm going with the Willie the Vegan thing. It's still popping in my head, but I think there's a hook to the rap song at least. I don't know the story yet, but maybe this is kind of the story. It's kind of based on what I've been listening to. I'm listening to Henry Rollins' podcast with Joe Rogan lately, the last 2 days. He told a cool story about David Lee Roth that after he stopped music, he moved to Japan, lives in an apartment just to learn sword fighting or some stuff like that. That sounds like some kind of Showtime series right there. Some retired musician just says, I'm going to go to Japan, learn sword fighting. I don't know what's so interesting, but that just sounds so eccentric to do something like that. But anyway, so Willie the Vegan, his story, he was a stand-up comedian. And then, I don't know, maybe he ran out of material or he got canceled. So he did the Buddha thing, I guess, if this makes any sense later when I listen to this. He walked out into the middle of some busy superhighway and he just meditated while the cars sped by him. And he found his enlightenment while all these cars barely missed him. And that's how he became his next identity, I guess. Willie the Vegan. Willie the Vegan was a stand-up comedian. It's kind of a weird hook for a rap song. I don't know where this album's going, if it's really rap, because now it's like in my head is more of a psychedelic Yellow Submarine album that's just completely trippy. I'm not saying I'm gonna start doing psychedelics, but it's gonna be kind of a trippy rap album, I guess. Whenever I think of rap albums, I'm thinking I'm gonna be like all hard and aggressive and write all these politically charged words, but this one's just gonna be like a Yellow Submarine or Yoshimi versus the robots, Pink Robots, whatever that's called. Or, I don't know, The Mollusk. Concept albums that are just lighthearted and just give people a true escape, like Waitress from Mars was supposed to do. Waitress from Mars is also kind of politically motivated, like the Queensryche, Operation Mindcrime. There's a political angle, but it's more just fun Marvel comic book stuff. You could go through any comic book and find religious undertones to Spider-Man or Superman. There's always religious stuff, Greek mythology stuff. There's always that Joseph Campbell type of appeal to Marvel movies, even if people look at them like they're so juvenile and they all just are so cliche. And that's not my opinion. I enjoy a lot of the Marvel stuff and the Spider-Man stuff. I wasn't a comic book guy. I'm trying to get into it now, later in life, actually. The anime stuff and comic books. But anyway, Willie the Vegan. This is kind of the hook to the song. Willie the Vegan was a stand-up comedian. Or it could just be the song, Willie the Vegan. Maybe some of these are rap songs. Some of these take a break from the rap and just have trippy, like that Lil Yachty. People thought it was like Pink Floyd. And it was. That one, the Seminole, whatever it was called, was pretty like a Pink Floyd song. So that's basically where my mind is. He was a stand-up comedian. So I'm just trying to write a fictional, psychedelic experience that now it's reminding me of the Frank Gallagher idea, so I have to make sure I don't repeat myself too much. I don't know what the arc of Willie the Vegan is. He was a stand-up comedian. For whatever reason, he got canceled or he ran out of material. He did his meditation thing in the middle of traffic of some highway. This could be an animation too, like just some guy sitting in the middle of a highway meditating as all these cars zoom by him and barely miss him. So that's how he finds his enlightenment, like another Buddha type of story. From there, I don't really know where to go. What does he do with his newfound, what he terms enlightenment? I don't know. He travels the country like Kung Fu, but that's kind of a ripoff. I'm not really sure, but I think I want to go in that direction of whenever there's another resource war, Willie the Vegan will gather his cult-like followers and they just go to where the war is going to be and they just hang out, play music, and have like hippie festivals and until both of the warring sides are like, all right, let's just join these hippies. And that's how he stops all the wars, I guess. I had this idea before as a short story, so I guess I'm going to put it here. So Willie the Vegan, he's a very psychedelic dude at that point. Or, people think of psychedelic, they think of no good druggies, but he found his spiritual salvation or whatever. I'm not going to promote psychedelic use in this. Not that I'm against it or for it, whatever. It's a personal thing for everyone. So Willie the Vegan, every time there's a war or the war drums are beating, he'll get all his followers to go to this country or region and they just hold a big hippie festival like Burning Man or something like that. And then both of the conflicting sides that want to kill each other, they say, all right, let's just stop killing each other and join these hippies. And that's how all the wars end. So, yeah, it's supposed to be a very fantastical story like that. Basically, that's the whole story. I don't know what else I'm going to add. Maybe there's a love story in there. Maybe there's a villain who tries to stop him. I'm not sure. I need to get at least, 8 to 10 songs, so I might have to make some other stuff up. But that's basically the storyline. And that was a melody that just popped in my head as I was pulling into work. Willie the Vegan. Willie the Vegan was a stand-up comedian. And I said, if you want to compare this album or listen to albums to get inspired, I'm always wary of that because I feel like if I do this, I'm just going to copy it. But Yellow Submarine, even Magical Mystery Tour, which I never really listened to, I think, the whole way through. Magical Mystery Tour. Yellow Submarine, I've listened to it. It's a lot of like the same songs, I think, Beatles songs. Yoshimi, I'll have to listen to that again, and I probably haven't listened to that in 10 years. Other concept albums that are just ridiculous stories like that. I just want it to be light, very mellow music, even the rap stuff, if I do rap stuff. But this one's evolving into something else because I think I'm out of I'm not out of things to talk about, and I'm just trying to find different ways to talk about the same thing over and over again. And that's a little bit more artistic and creative. I'm not just repeating the same stuff. I'm trying to find different satirical paths to discuss similar topics, I guess, which could be grating for me and the listener. Like the cross-dressing at Goodwill, I just finished that. I haven't done the music, but I did the book at least, and the artwork and the lyrics. I'm pretty much done with that portion of it. I just have to think of some punk riffs and maybe some vocal melodies, but it's mostly spoken word anyway. So I am kind of tired of. I had a song on cross dressing at Goodwill. That's about. It was never supposed to be about me. I think it's the last song. No, a Christmas elf for the irony and stuff. Just kept repeating that phrase. It was never supposed to be about me, because it wasn't. My goal when I started Substack was to kill my ego and just write fiction. And that's kind of what I'm doing. Like, I'm writing fictional, satirical stuff based on just personal experiences I've had or thoughts in my head, because I don't really know what else to write about it. At least over the last month, 2 months, I didn't really know what else to write about. This one's supposed to be Willie the Vegan, I'm talking about now. It's supposed to be complete fictional characters with no political metaphors or anything like that. Yeah, it's maybe there's the resource war thing, but that's always been going on. Like, since the Vikings, you just go and pillage stuff. That's not new. It's not just a part of the American military-industrial complex. It's just a part of humanity, because everyone's the same. That's a vague statement, and yeah, people could debate that for hours, because every philosophy isn't the same, but there's a part of every human tribe or tribal mentalities that have that in there. And I try to write about that, or explore that at least, because that's the essence of everything, right? The tribalism stuff. So Willie the Vegan, maybe there's a little bit of a political slant that, but I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat. Like, do you really want to send people to go to war over resources and stuff? I don't think anyone wants to do that. And that's basically what the history of empire is. That's the point of empire building, right? You just want to take over and take control of stuff, for better or worse. Whatever your political slant is, I guess. You could debate this over and over again, and maybe the main point is just to be transparent about it. If there's transparency, then there could be honest conversations about everything. But the fact that it's not transparent is probably to keep people ignorant, and that's beneficial for the people in power, I guess. I don't know. I've been listening to some stuff, Rogan stuff at Roseanne Barr from like 10 years ago, or longer than that, and they're talking about the same stuff 10, 20 years ago. So it's a repeated cycle with every generation. The only difference now is I think the internet kind of opens people's minds up more. The internet is like a digital psychedelic. As people say, psychedelics will open the third eye and all that stuff, all that consciousness stuff. Ayahuasca will show you your personal demons and how to defeat them by puking your guts out or having diarrhea. Whatever that does, I don't know. I'm not judging it. I'm not making fun of the ayahuasca thing. I'm just saying I never really tried it. I don't know if it's beneficial for everybody. Like, a lot of this stuff is just out of my realm, because I never was personally involved in it, or I never experienced it personally. So anyway, I'm going just on tangents right now. Willie the Vegan was a stand-up comedian. Something, something, na, 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 na. Yeah, whenever I think of stuff like this, I just think of Flaming Lips. So maybe it'll go that direction. Or I need to find some new music too. recently I made my top 50 albums of 2025, and it seemed to be 80% ambient noise stuff, and I'm happy with that because that's a direction I like to move in myself if I can one day, to just not have to write words. I like writing these exploring stories like this because I'm not even sure what I'm even talking about right now, but something will pop and the story will grow and grow until I have something worthy of writing, at least in my opinion. I can compare this to Seeds of Anarchy, the first screenplay I wrote in 2020 when I was going through crazy stuff, was Seeds of Anarchy. And I didn't really have a full story. It was just a bunch of punk kids from the city. They accidentally kill someone in their concert. The person they killed is connected to the mob, so they have to just flee the city that night and move south. So I guess they're based in New York or Philly or DC, somewhere northeast. I never said where they live, but it's got to be New York probably. And then they have to flee to the south because the mob's going to come after them. And this is all based in the 80s. And that was the whole story I had. They go to a farm because they run out of gas and money, and they have to work on the farm to survive. They meet a bunch of like Mexican family farmhands, and they become friends with them and like the very conservative family, but they all just kind of group together. I didn't know how to end the story. One day I was at work and I came up with the weed angle, that these are very conservative Christian people working on the farm. They're about to lose their farm, so they decide to grow marijuana to save the farm. This is during the early Reagan war on drugs years. So it's that was the last part of the story I came up with, that it would maybe kind of show that well, there's tons of people in the southern United States that are for marijuana. I think it's just more of a religious thing. But there's plenty of just people against censorship and prohibition, whether it's the West Coast, East Coast, Midwest, or the South. I feel like the Bible Belt is the hardest region of the country to change people's minds about psychedelics and marijuana and stuff like that, because there's a lot of temperance and religious evangelical stuff. That's fine, man. Like, I don't do any drugs, but I feel like it should be available to people who want to do it. That's my only point. If you want to have a free country, you have to have a free country. You can't say, well, this is how we do things, so this is freedom based on our morals or values. It just doesn't work like that. Yeah, this conversation could go on for hours about where do you draw the line of drugs and sex and all these other vices, I guess, because they can definitely turn into vices. Porno, drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, anything, sugar. They all become vices. Like, you can't lie to yourself. People say everything in moderation, but that doesn't really make sense a lot of times. Like, what about murder and other bad things? Moderate that too? Like, everything in moderation is a stupid cliche, but I use it too because people just, it's that level of, oh, how's the weather today conversation. So, yeah, I don't like that cliche anymore, that everything in moderation. No. Heroin, I don't think you could use that moderately, or opiates and crazy drugs like that. So, no, everything not in moderation. Use cliches in moderation. But whatever, what was I talking about? I don't even remember now. This is the part of the conversation when I lose track of the story completely. But yeah, Willie the Vegan, it's supposed to be just a stupid story. a heartfelt tale of some uh, stand-up comedian who becomes some enlightened Buddha character, and then he goes from there. I'm not sure of the details yet. Oh, I was talking about Seeds of Anarchy and how that story evolved over months and months. It took me a long time to come up with the story, but I was pretty happy with it. I just thought it was cool to have like a very right-wing family, and it's not even a novel concept. You could look at Breaking Bad, did the same thing. You could look at Weeds. Remember that show, Weeds? Great show. It was a suburban housewife. She had to grow pot. This is a very common storyline in not just American culture, but all over the world, I guess. I guess it's just a show that, I don't know, that path of temptation could fall on anybody. And I don't know, America, if you want to say land of the free, free country, and all that stuff, the government shouldn't babysit people, because that's a big Republican thing. Republicans will die on that cross, die on that hill, whatever, that the government shouldn't play mommy and daddy and restrict things and be in people's bedrooms and all this stuff. Wasn't that a Republican thing for a long time? Just keep the government out of my business. Well, then you can't have it both ways. You have to have legalized marijuana, or at least it's going in that direction, I guess. And I said, I don't even smoke marijuana. I don't do edibles, and I don't even care that much about it. But I just don't like hypocrisy like that. Well, we live by this. This is how we term freedom. So everyone else has to live by our version of freedom. It doesn't work like that. Like, it really just doesn't work like that. And I think people realize that. That's why it changed in the state level, at least. Federally, I don't know, it's more complicated for other reasons, I guess. But that was my third act of Seeds of Anarchy, why I formed that idea, I guess. I just thought it was a cool way to end the story, whatever. In the 80s, like, the war on drugs was even, it was probably crazier than like the 20s and 30s when it was the reefer madness stuff. 1980s was all about that stuff. And it was more crack than anything, but plenty of people went to jail for life for having a joint or marijuana and stuff. So it's a complicated thing. I'm not the most educated on this. I remember in college, I had winter break, so I took a class at Rutgers Camden, and it was on geography. Geographic. I think it was just on geography. Simple. We had to like memorize the whole country of Africa and know all the countries. That was really hard to memorize. That's all I really remember, but they had a guest speaker come in and talk about legalizing drugs, and he made some good points. Like the season of The Wire kind of explored that as well. What happens if a city would legalize drugs, or at least permit it without going to war with all the drug dealers and stuff. It's an interesting thing that plenty of people have explored over the last 30, 40 years. But yeah, I'm not trying to promote drugs. They're a vice. You can't lie to yourself. Anything's a vice that you can be easily abused. Like, I smoked cigarettes for a long time. Yeah, it's definitely a vice. Like, yeah, it might make you feel good, but it's easily addicting, and you can abuse that stuff. I think Ozzy Osbourne said like cigarettes were the most addicting drug he ever got into. So yeah, you can't lie to yourself. These are vices, but how should a government handle vices that are victimless crimes? Somebody smoking a joint or whatever. It's always been discussed for the last 50 years, about longer than that. Like when they made alcohol illegal, it was the same arguments, same debates. But I don't know, man. I'm tired of talking about this stuff too. But I was just explaining why I came up with the ending of Seeds of Anarchy, because I needed some kind of a third act. And I thought that would be a cool juxtaposition to show like a Reagan Southern family from Georgia who had to start growing pot to save their farm. I just thought that was a cool way to end the story, that's all. And it was just a funny look at the war on drugs, because it is supposed to be kind of a Coen Brothers satirical type of movie. Anyway, Willie the Vegan, we'll see where it goes, where my head goes with this one. Because I want to make it really weird. Maybe he becomes like a Messiah character. And maybe he gets the whole Pontius Pilate treatment that the whatever country I base him in, maybe it's just a fake country. Because I'm so American-centric. I just want to make up stuff at this point. Like Infinite Jest. I think he just made up a bunch of stuff in that one. He made up corporations and countries, didn't he? I'm not going to lie. I tried to read that book, I don't know, over a decade ago. And I got through like 100 pages and gave up. David Foster Wallace. He's probably the toughest author I've ever tried to read, which people will probably laugh at me for, I guess, or be like, oh, this guy thinks he's an intellectual. He can't even read Infinite Jest. Seriously, I tried to read it every day after work. I would read like 10, 20 pages. I just gave up after a while. Because you had to like read the chapters and then go to the back and read the footnotes every couple pages. Like, that's an intense book, man. I wish I would have kept with it. But to be honest, I don't know if I would try to read it again. I wasn't enjoying it. And that's probably because I didn't immerse myself in the world enough. Maybe now I could get into it if I try to read it, but I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I just want to write satire that's not even political anymore, just on the human condition, if that makes sense. Because if you say, oh, this is a satire of Democratic or Republican or socialism or communism, or how the Wizard of Oz explains these political topics, the Federal Reserve. I'm tired of these issues. Like, they just keep getting recycled over and over again on the news in my head. And it's just boring, man. Yeah, it's cool to know your history. But, that's another cliche that kind of gets overused. If you don't know your history, you're going to be bound to repeat it, or whatever, destined to repeat it, whatever the word is. It's like, yeah, that's true, but I think history is going to repeat whether you know about it or not. So maybe it's more like know your history so you can know what happened in the past, so you can defend yourself from what's going to happen to your life eventually. That's the only thing that could be kind of a blueprint for people, I guess. But everything's evolving, right? You're supposed to be ambitiously optimistic about things as you get older. If you make it to your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond, you have to have a level of optimism that how we managed in the past as a global society is going to get better and evolve into something different. Because why would you want to repeat the past when it wasn't that long ago that there was slavery and colonialism, all that crazy stuff, and human sacrifices and all this crazy other stuff? Why would you want to repeat that stuff? There's some things that shouldn't be. You can still learn about stuff, and I'm always against I was going to say rewriting history, but I guess everyone kind of does that anyway. I'm more just against there's nothing wrong with reading about past atrocities and stuff like that, because that could open people's eyes up to why these things happen, the root causes of all these problems, and economic unfairness and stuff. But there's smarter people that study that stuff. But yeah, I'm just trying to write stupid stories. And that's what Willie the Vegan will hopefully turn into, because I don't know, cross-dressing at Goodwill, it took me about the last 2 months to get to the point where I'm at now, and I still need to write the melodies and punk riffs for the songs. But like I said, it's pretty much done. But that one was kind of draining, maybe because I wrote it through November and December. The holiday season's kind of just weird all the time and gets stressful, and I was working longer hours at Amazon warehouse, and that was physically and mentally kind of tough to get used to. So I don't know, it was a tough album to fully realize, at least to where it is right now. So I'd rather write something that's just completely childlike and juvenile, like The Mollusk. I love that album, The Mollusk by Ween. I talked about it a lot already. It's just a fun album, like SpongeBob used it, the Ocean Man song. It's a fun album. Yeah, there's some bad language and obscenity, but there's nothing that offends me, at least, but it could offend other people, I guess. I'm going to keep to that same formula of just trying to write the first stuff that comes in my head. That's what I've kind of been doing lately, without too much editing. But to be honest, I edited the lyrics for Cross-Dressing at Goodwill a lot. It wasn't just like free stream of consciousness and then don't even look at it again. I edited a lot of those songs, all of them, many times. It's like, oh, how are people going to react to this one? Blah, 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 blah. And yeah, it's just always going to be in my brain to care that much about other people's interpretations. Because that's fine. You're supposed to ingest, hopefully buy my art. I would love if people actually bought my stuff. That would be cool. If people buy a piece of art, a painting, a doodle, because that's what I kind of do. I don't call myself a painter, I just call myself a doodler. You buy someone's art and you interpret it how you interpret it. But that's fine. I do that too. I'll listen to a rap song and I'll be like, well, I don't know anything about living on the street or drug dealing or gangster stuff. I don't know anything about that stuff personally, but this is how I interpret how this guy or woman is talking about this stuff. Or I listen to some heavy metal, like crazy dark black death metal. I'm like, I don't even know what they're really saying because they're just screaming. But I guess I just interpret it the best I can because I don't know the occult stuff and all that stuff. That's fine, but when people maliciously interpret something because they want to portray someone in a malicious, slanderous type of light, that's when the problems occur, I guess. And that's what I'm always just like, I shouldn't be concerned about because people are going to do that anyway. But that's always in the back of your head whenever you write anything. You shouldn't let that get in the way of you writing whatever you want to write, because people are going to take your stuff out of context if they want to, no matter what you write. You could say the Smurfs are my favorite type of fictional creature, and then they'll call you some kind of a blue supremacist. Or, oh, he only likes blue people. He likes people who wear white underwear. I don't know, man. That's just where my brain goes sometimes. But I do like the Smurfs. Smurfs are cool. Smurfs are good people, man. But I guess that's all for this one. I've kind of talked for half an hour, and I don't really know what else to talk about. But Willie the Vegan will become some kind of a weird exploration of everything I've said up to this point. And hopefully the music is the thing that leads the way, because the music is always the most important thing.